Welcome to this exciting new venture. I'm Danny,
And I'm safe.
and we've been friends for 16 years. We are so proud of the connection we have and the stories we can share along the way. Now, with a mutual obsession with the moon, the stars, soul, and all things in between, we want to invite you into our story. This is Shouty Mums and Spirituality.
Hi, Danny.
Hi, So.
What a week.
What a week.
I don't know what's going on. Honestly, well, obviously, I blame the eclipse.
You do know what's going on. That's the difference. I don't know what's going on, but you're like, Danny, it's the eclipse. And I'm like, it makes so much sense. I felt like
Yeah.
I had a banging head all week. And I found it really hard to like breathe. And I'm like, okay, do I need to do more grounding? Am I not having enough sugar? I've done so much networking this week that I think maybe I'm finally feeling people's energy. Because I feel like my whole life, I've never been somebody who takes on other people's stuff. You know, like people that say that they're an empath and they do. I've always been like, nope, doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me. Whereas now I'm like, I am dead.
I think you always probably have.
Really?
I think so. Yeah. Like,
Okay.
if we're talking about when we used to go back into work, like if someone in the store was grumpy, it would affect you, right?
I don't know. I feel like I can help change somebody's mood very
Mm.
quickly and turn it around. And if they want to carry on being in a funk, I'll just be like, oh, well, that's them. And I'll just carry on my own
Oh
little,
my
like,
God.
happy
Teach me.
bubble. But yeah, tell us about the eclipse. What's going on this week? Obviously, it's the
Yes.
19th today.
Yes. So obviously we had the lunar eclipse a couple of weeks back. That one was in Pisces. This one is a solar eclipse because they're always opposite each other. So this is a solar eclipse in Virgo. And Virgo is kind of like our routines and structure and systems. So I think this eclipse, like the pre-eclipse bit, is making all those things that are usually quite easy really difficult.
Yeah.
I've really struggled with my motivation and I haven't put my washing away like all week. I literally cannot be bothered. But the way I see it is it's just kind of me getting ready for a reset because this eclipse is huge for resetting. This eclipse is absolutely huge for manifesting. It's always great to manifest on a new moon, but
Okay.
this one is huge. The energy is much stronger. Also, the psychological point is like when it's things that we will remember, our brains tend to keep them easier. But yeah, it's massive manifesting. And I wanted to talk about that this week. Manifestation and how do we stay in a high frequency when we're having a shit week?
I love this. So this conversation keeps us human, right? This topic keeps us human. And that is what I love about navigating life as a human, because we're supposed to feel the feels. We're supposed to have shit days. We're supposed to have wobbles and get frustrated and angry. Like people that live in alignment or see themselves as very spiritual, it doesn't mean they don't have shit days. It doesn't mean they don't lower that frequency every now and again. But obviously, what I learned this year from two very wise women who taught us a hell of a lot is about your base frequency. And when I understood that concept, it really made sense because we can go up and down, right? The frequencies. We can feel like we can take over the world. And then someone says something, or, we stub our toe and we're like, woof, fuming, angry, frequencies low. But if we can continue to maintain that base frequency, and the more you work on hiring your frequency, the more higher your base frequency is. That's how I see it. And I think that's how I justify having those shouty mum moments when I lose my shit. And I'm like, whoa, that was a low frequency. Or like when you're around somebody who's having a bad day or they're negative, or you're around somebody who hasn't got their shit together and you're like, gosh, that really did lower my frequency. And then you can continue to go back to your baseline. I think essentially it's just giving yourself permission that we're supposed to feel. Like that is the magic about being human. At the moment, our souls are having a human experience so that we learn the lessons. We're not supposed to not have those down days or those tough days. And I think being able to bounce back really quickly is essentially how you manifest, because you need to remember that you can feel a certain way, but it shouldn't affect your self-worth or your kind of perception on a situation. And you empathize with people and you can wobble and you can feel the feels. And then you talk yourself back round. And it's always about reclaiming that baseline. That's what I do anyway.
Yeah. And I think with the baseline thing as well, and I notice this a lot with my clients that when they, you know, come to me, then obviously the nervous system is usually really dysregulated. And then over time, it becomes more regulated. And when they have those bad days, when the frequency drops, because that baseline is so much higher than it was, it
Yes.
can feel more difficult because
Right.
the gap is bigger.
Yes.
And they sometimes start to panic. Shit, I'm
It's a
going back
spiral.
to my old, I thought I'd got over this. I
Yeah.
thought, I was making progress, and it feels worse because that gap is much higher. And I notice that now, being at like my base level is definitely higher. I'm definitely more peaceful, more content.
Yeah.
I have more joy in my days. That when I have a bad day, it probably feels worse than maybe it would have done, but the bounce back is quicker.
That's so
I mean, you bounce back so fast.
yeah.
Like, Danny, he will message me something, and then literally within, I'm not even joking, half an hour, she'll be like, "It's okay. I'm over it."
Is that delusional confidence, right? Is
Oh,
that
it works.
it works. And I think this is the power, right, of getting a hold of your mindset. And I think essentially being your own cheerleader. Because yeah, essentially I can wobble and I can get really upset and emotional and reactive. But I am a lot better at quickly being like, do you know what? It's fine. That's their shit. This is mine. I'm back on. We're cool. We're good. And then you're like, wow, that was quick. But then essentially, I think it does take work. And I think it's like anything. I kind of see it as, and I was talking to somebody this morning about, like muscle memory, like when you're working out and stuff. I kind of feel like trauma and limiting beliefs and all these things that we have to navigate to increase that baseline frequency. It kind of feels like muscle memory when you are triggered and when something happens that will quickly rush you back to that place. Like the more you work on teaching your subconscious that this isn't who I am anymore. This isn't my situation anymore. Like it does pull you back, but I really trust that the universe tests you and it has to keep testing you to see if you mean what you say. Like, are you serious now? Are you actually ready now? Or are we going to go backwards then? And I feel like that's been a massive shift for me when I take note and I'm like, okay, universe, I see you. You're testing me. It's a really effing good test and I hate it, but I'm noticing the lesson here and actually I'm behaving differently to how I would. And I think that is the power of when you combine like the law of allowing, which of course is the Abraham Hicks law of the universe stuff. So the law of allowing is essentially what Mel Robbins teaches in the Let Them theory. So it's one of the same, right? But I think when you realize that you can allow a situation to unfold, but it doesn't affect how you feel. And I think going back to understanding that we cannot control how anybody thinks, feels, or behaves, and they're allowed to think, feel, and behave whatever they want to feel. But it's my responsibility to control how I react or respond to it. And I think the more you train your brain to behave like that the quicker the bounce back is, essentially, because you're in control. Like, am I going to allow this situation to completely deplete me and ruin my day? And then on one hand, it's not always about fighting it, right? It's about having that wobbly day and feeling, or maybe like checking in for a second with your energy and being like, what do I need right now? I need to switch off from the world and snuggle my kids on the sofa and remember what I'm doing this all for. And that is essentially what I've had to do recently. I'm like, no, it's too much. It's too much. I'm cancelling my evenings of calls. My head's whooshing. I'm feeling really wobbly. I'm going to stick a movie on and sit on the sofa and eat dinner in front of the telly with my kids and put them to bed. And I think when you can fill your cup back up and you can quickly remind your subconscious, you're safe, you're okay, you're good, let's get back on the horse. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it takes ages to build up that safety because ultimately it's unfamiliar. If you've been living in survival mode, that is familiar to your brain. That survival mode almost becomes safety in itself. But when you start feeling good, your brain's like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Almost looking out for what's going to go wrong
Yeah.
next. And that's why actually saying out loud, I know some people don't feel comfortable talking out loud to themselves, but when you are, having a great moment or even not so great moment, just from saying out loud to your brain, we are safe. I
Yeah.
don't need you to protect me anymore. Like you've done your job. Thank you. You just keep putting that message in. It really does work, but it does take time for your brain to realize that that is your new familiar. This safety is new. This new base, each time you move up, base level, you're kind of retraining your brain that this is the new normal.
Yeah, and you're telling the universe essentially who you are. You're deciding who you are, and you're showing the universe, this is who I surround myself with. This is the energy I'm calling in. This is the vibration that I'm functioning at. And then you attract that like-minded frequency or vibration. And I love thinking about it like that because it really is like the neuroscience of manifesting. And it makes so much sense. You have to match the frequency of what it is you want to call in. If it's an amazing experience, then it's a high frequency. If it's a shit time, then it's a low frequency. So you decide what frequency you want to match. And essentially, that's how you show the universe, I'm ready for that opportunity. I'm now saying yes to more. I back myself. And I think that self-worth part is the secret sauce. Essentially, the way to manifest is to truly believe you're worthy of receiving, right? One of the really good tools that everyone can do is to remind themselves of what they're really good at, or remind themselves that they're of service to somebody. Because essentially, like most limiting beliefs and most trauma and most times that we doubt our abilities because we don't think we're worthy of it. And I think we have to continually remind ourselves, you are so worthy. You've just helped turn around a situation. You've just done something amazing. You've said something amazing. And I always think that that's why kind of on one hand, I'm lucky that my natural personality, because I've got the most amazing mother, because I was brought up by the kindest woman who has taught me to be nice to everybody, I think automatically I've always been of service. And I think I've had to work through that recently and see the difference between being a people pleaser and being nice. And I've had to do my own work on that. But essentially, because I've often stayed in that high frequency of making somebody smile, making somebody's day by being helpful, that has showed my subconscious I'm worthy because I'm really good and I've helped someone and I'm really nice. And I think it's that because a lot of people, those that are depressed, for example, or those that have troubles with their mental health and stuff, like if you can remind yourself, even little bits at a time, of how you've helped somebody, it lifts your vibration, it lifts that frequency. You're then of service, you're then worthy because you're helping somebody else. And essentially, I think that's what we're here to do as humans. We are here to serve, we're here to be of service, we're here to help somebody with something that we are naturally good at that somebody else needs. I think that's the secret, I guess, to getting out of depression or moving through a mental fog or a funk. And I think there's something really special when you look at it statistically. Most people that have been in, and your story is phenomenal for this, right? But most people that have been in a horrendous situation wants to help somebody with it. And it's, you turn that pain into purpose. And I think it was Simon Squibb I was listening to the other day. It was him, yeah, because that's his kind of story, right? He turned his pain into purpose, and he realized from his time living on the streets and being homeless for a little bit, he realized how he wanted to help people. And essentially that then reminds your subconscious, or it teaches you, you are worthy because you are helpful and you are of service to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah, that self-worth piece is so important. And I think the bit for me with the manifestation is a lot of people will say that it doesn't work, right? And it's almost impossible to manifest if your nervous system is dysregulated. Because if you think of kind of if we think about like confirmation bias, for example, if you say you want to buy a mini, everywhere you go, you'll start seeing minis. So that's just an example of how our brains work. But if we're kind of in fight or flight mode, we will only see threats and danger, and we might actually miss out on those opportunities, which is part of manifesting, is taking that inspired action, right? So if we can't see the opportunities that we might be able to take, we're therefore not going to take them, because obviously, as we know, manifestation isn't just I want to win the lottery and then whoop, and then winning the well, and then actually winning the lottery. You have to at least buy a lottery ticket. So, but if you're in fight and flight mode, you're potentially not going to buy that lottery ticket because there's a risk.
Down to not being worthy though, right? You feel like,
Yeah,
oh, there's no way I'm going to win it. Comes from a place of feeling like I don't deserve it. What are the chances? And I think that, I guess, is the secret between creating those manifested realities. You have to match your thoughts, your actions, and your beliefs. And it's the belief part that is the hardest because of trauma, because of limiting beliefs, because everybody has a different start in life. Essentially, not everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. Everybody's situation is very, very different. So if you can learn to match what you want, how you feel, and what you actually do, that is how you call in the opportunities. And that is the secret to it. So many people can talk about visualization or they can create a beautiful vision board. But if they're looking at it and thinking, God, I'm never going to get that. I'm not good enough to do that. There's no way I've got the confidence to go there. Then there's no point. Essentially, you have to back yourself before the universe listens and helps you.
And for me, that's why I think actually, with some people, they manifest their wildest dreams straight off. But for me, I think manifesting small things and then actually seeing the results, it gives you that little bit, yeah, I am worthy, and then you start seeing those and really then you start noticing more things that show you that you are
Yeah.
worthy.
And that's the neuroscience thing, right? You know that I always forget what it's called, the part of your brain, but it's the part of the brain that needs to be reminded that you're safe and that this is normal and this is expected. So
Yeah.
if you can show your brain, I wanted this and I got it, it's essentially the same as the self-worth thing, right? And the achieving thing. When you can achieve something, you're then showing yourself, look what I was able to achieve. Let's try something else that I'm going to be able to achieve. And I guess that's why when somebody decides to start being fit, they become consistently fit and they start being able to maintain those fitness goals, because essentially you're showing yourself what you're capable of, and then you then have more motivation to keep doing it. Whereas somebody who's like, oh, I'm never going to work out because I can never stick to it, well then of course you're never going to start working out and stick to it. And I think I love and again, it's the secret part of visualization. But on one hand, I don't like to think that you need to keep it realistic because that's limiting yourself. I want people to dream so big that there are no limits, because that is essentially how you play with life, right? If money wasn't an object, or if, limitation wasn't a thing, what would you achieve? What do you want your life to look like? But then on the flip side, if you know you're somebody who's a little risk averse and you need to start taking small steps, like you said, to manifest the small things so that you can show yourself what is achievable, then it helps to remind you what you're capable of. And then you can start manifesting bigger. And just what came to me then, and the reason why I guess I've been speaking about manifesting for the last year, right? But before that, like, people would say that I was very lucky. And I guess on one hand, I've probably been manifesting my whole life, and that's why it looks lucky. But I've always been somebody who is very, very content with the small things in life. So I will find joy in the fucking birds in the trees, right? Or a cuddle for my kids, or, so I had quite low expectations. So of course I was only bringing in, and I never really aimed high because I was quite content. And I think it's been an organic path for me to start calling in bigger things. And that's where it's getting exciting now, because I'm like, oh my God, I actually manifested this incredible opportunity because I got to a point organically in my career that I saw that happening. But sometimes I look at my husband, I know it sounds very mushy, but I'm like, I manifested him because my whole teenage years, all I imagined was having a best friend who is my soulmate, that has similar values and goals, who wants to have babies and play house. And all the men before I met Leo didn't want to play house. They didn't want commitment. They didn't really care about family values. Like, of course, I was going for the wrong kind of man. But essentially, when I look at my life now, I'm like, I manifested this. Because, 16-year-old me, who was a helpless romantic, all she wanted was to meet the love of her life, get married and have babies. And I did. Do you know what I mean?
And I guess it's actually that's where the gratitude piece comes in, isn't it? Because sometimes we can forget about those things that seem so simple to us, because it's having a house, having babies, having a husband who's your best friend. They just become such part of our just day that we actually forget how actually, and we are really lucky to have those things
Yes.
and just being grateful for them. And I think in terms of, we were speaking earlier about having, a dysregulated nervous system, like gratitude, just, writing down 3 things a day that you're grateful for. It can be something so small. I'm grateful for this tiger balm because I had a really bad headache and now it's gone. That's part of kind of helping us regulate our nervous system. You don't have to go and spend £100 and sit with a therapist. You can do little things at home to,
So
regulate. Breath work is a really good one. There's, yeah, and I don't mean sitting there I mean, just, when you're in the shower, taking a few deep
being
breaths.
mindful. And I think this is
Yeah.
another amazing tool. And I'm somebody that admired spiritual people, but I never thought I was one because I didn't manifest. I mean, I didn't meditate, that's it. And I used to give myself a hard time because I don't make time to meditate. But then I realized that I'm a mindful person. So when I'm making a cup of coffee or I'm driving, I am so present and I observe and I genuinely feel gratitude constantly. That is essentially what people do when they meditate, because they're those sort of people that can't easily connect or disconnect, right? And I think it's
Yeah.
something to do with disconnected from the outside world. And I think if you're naturally good at doing that, you don't necessarily need, like, of course, I should probably meditate more, because how amazing would that be for me to connect to my higher self a little bit more and see what else I can achieve, right? But essentially, if you're somebody that struggles to detach from the outside world and struggles to be present and be mindful, meditating is an amazing tool, because essentially you're silencing the noise, you're coming back to you, and you're allowing that silence to regulate and for you to be still and to ground. And that's the power in it. But the gratitude thing is, I guess some people say that gratitude is the highest frequency. I used to think it was love, right? But gratitude is, because when you can show that you are grateful for the smallest things, again, it's showing your subconscious that you are ready to receive more because you love what you've got. And I love that.
I just wanted to go back to the mindfulness bit, because people always think that is like sitting and meditating, but doing anything where you're present in that moment is being mindful. So whether that is making a cup of tea, having a shower, I think when you're chopping your vegetables for dinner, if you're just really concentrating on what you're doing, that is being mindful. And if you can practice it in those really small moments, driving in the car, actually they call it mindfulness practice for a reason, because it's bloody hard. And it doesn't mean that you don't have any thoughts come in. It just means when your thoughts come in, you kind of go, yeah, I hear you. I'll deal with you later. And
Yeah.
the important thing is that you don't judge. A lot
Yes.
of people think, oh, I can't meditate because they're having these other thoughts come in about what should I cook for dinner? I need to get the washing out of the washing machine. And that's fine. That's normal. But it's just about going, yep, I hear you. And then coming back to what you're doing. And actually, we spend so much time living in the past and thinking about the future. How lovely would it be if we could all just be a little bit more present?
In the moment.
Sometimes I think, like with my kids, like I wish I could be better at being present with them. I don't necessarily always enjoy playing like the role play stuff with them. I can probably handle about 3 cups of imaginary tea before I get bored. But if I could just be, like, a bit more present with them than thinking about, "Oh god, I've got to send that email." And that's something I think I really regret about Callie's treatment, is there was times when I wasn't really, really present in those moments
But you were
because my brain.
literally fight or flight.
Well, yeah, I literally was, but I just think if I had been a little bit more mindful, and I could have potentially. I spent a lot of time thinking about in the future, worrying about what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to have been able to be a bit more present. But like we said, it's not easy.
No.
It's not something you can
And
just
essentially,
do.
you've got to give yourself grace. And then it goes back to the comfort of, I navigated that exactly how I should. And actually,
Yeah,
you have to trust the timings of everything. And you were exactly who you needed to be because that is what you were doing, right?
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. So I think, just to summarize today, is just
Be grateful.
be grateful. Yeah, just be grateful and keep your frequency high.
Keep it high, girl.
Keep it high.
Right. I love you.
I love you. Bye. You've been listening to Shouty Mums and Spirituality. We'd love to hear from you, and you can find us on Insta at Shouty Mums and Spirituality Pod. And remember, keep your crystals charged, your chakras open, and your voices loud. See you next time.